All right, on today's episode of Top Tier Tips, we're going to talk about general physical preparedness, otherwise known as GPP. So today's going to be mostly about education, but it relates to your workout tomorrow. So tomorrow, your workout involves doing an AMRAP with a Turkish get-up, a double racked carry, and a low bear crawl and a brawl jump. And you're gonna perform that in a circuit for an AMRAP. By the way, your double racked carries, your arms should be against your ribs like a boxer guarding their ribs. Your kettlebells should be right here with your elbows down on your ribs. So we shouldn't see elbows up like there is with a barbell. We shouldn't see the kettlebells resting on the shoulders. You should be connecting your tricep and your elbow to your rib cage and holding your arms just like I am right here in your racked carry. With your low bear crawl, we should have a nice level tabletop with our back, right? And we should be able to balance a cup of water on our lower back while we're crawling, right? Which means our hips should not turn, nor should our hips rise up and down. And then your brawl jump, what I want you to focus on is not just trying to maximize your horizontal leap, but actually land softly, learn to decelerate, all right? So you are generally training multiple physical attributes in this AMRAP, all right? So the skill of being able to carry things for extended distances, jump far and decelerate, softly, being able to crawl if you needed to, and hold things overhead while moving up and down. These are general physical attributes. And your GPP is built through doing very basic, simple things well over increasing volume over years. All right, so in mathematics, a pyramid is only as tall as its base. So if you want to prepare for a sport like CrossFit or like weightlifting or like a 100-meter dash, the sports performance part of that pyramid is at the top, and the base of that pyramid is your GPP, and the wider your base, the higher the peak on that pyramid, meaning the higher your performance in that sport. So let's take CrossFit in general as it's often done in most gyms. CrossFit as a brand tries to sell you on the idea that it is a GPP program, generally speaking, and this obviously depends on the gym and how they interpret CrossFit. That is not true. It is trained as a sport with very predictable movements done in very predictable ways, and generally speaking, it is not the ideal way to build your GPP. That's for a whole separate video entirely. I'd like to relate GPP to something very basic, a double under. Like, that is a high skill movement that all of us are familiar with. Now, in the future, I can make a video about how to get better at double unders with technique, right? But as I often say in class, there are conditions that a human must have in order to do double unders that have very little to do with the technique of the double under. For example, if you can't do double unders right now, one of the questions I often have for people is, how much can you squat? If you can't put half of your body weight on your back and squat it easily for reps, then you likely lack the relative strength to be able to jump high enough to make double unders work. All right, so I can spend all day talking to this hypothetical person about how to jump up and down and where to put my hands with the rope and where should I be looking and my shoulders, or all these things, these technique things. But if this person doesn't have the relative strength to actually move their body off the ground high enough to make a rope go underneath of them twice, then why are we talking about the technique of the double under? All right? If they don't have the basic coordination to match their hand movement with their feet, why are we talking about the technique of the double under? A person, to learn a double under, to do them well, you have to have a high degree of relative strength, and you have to have good coordination and timing. These are components of GPP, general physical preparedness. So in many cases, getting better at double unders isn't just about trying to practice with a jump rope. It's actually spending time improving your relative and absolute strength and improving your hand-feet coordination. This is a very easy example of how GPP matters in skilled things. Another good example is a snatch. If I give somebody a PVC pipe and I teach them how to snatch, that's great. They may actually learn how to snatch. Now, if I give that same person 95 pounds to snatch and they fail, I don't necessarily need to be talking about how their technique failed. It could very well be that that person doesn't have the requisite relative strength or absolute strength to properly move that 95 pounds in order to express the snatch. In that example, practicing snatching repeatedly is not going to solve that problem. I need to get better at squats and deadlifts and jumps and things of that nature. By the same token, let's take the 95-pound snatch again. This person already has established that they can snatch with a PVC pipe. They have the technique of snatching. But let's say they go to snatch with the 95 pounds, they can't stabilize it overhead, and every time they go to, it just drops forwards or backwards. Now, a lot of CrossFit coaches would say, okay, like, I need you to snatch 3 times a week and practice on an EMOM with 95 pounds until you just get it. Me, I would simplify the thing entirely and have people spend some time doing some overhead carries, for example, some stabilization work overhead, some general pressing overhead, and actually develop that relative and absolute strength and stabilization of objects overhead. Now, magically, I spend a few weeks on that with that person. We go back to the 95-pound snatch, and we've solved their snatch problem without ever actually practicing the snatch in between. These are just some examples of how GPP needs to improve and be trained in order to become good at skilled stuff, and all sport involves skilled stuff. So if you want to get better at CrossFit, you want to get better at weightlifting, you want to get better at powerlifting, which are all sports, your answer to your progress is likely not repeating the tested movements over and over and over again, certainly not for time, but it is in fact learning how to strengthen your weaknesses and build up your general physical preparedness in such a way that there is a carryover to the requirements of your sport when it is time to test. So I will talk more about these concepts in the future, but I wanted to start the conversation in this video about GPP and how it relates to your general ability to perform movements in CrossFit, weightlifting, and powerlifting, which are the main things in this gym. And to remind you that tomorrow's WOD is all about building your GPP base of that pyramid, which is then going to determine over time just how high you can go or specialize in whatever activity you're looking to specialize in. hit me up with any questions, email me, text, or talk to me in person, and I'll be happy to help you with homework or programming on the side. More on all these things later.